If you'd like to support me or my channel, you can follow me on Patreon and gain early access to videos or your name in the credits for as little as $1 a month. Medieval monsters are all pretty basic, right? Like, you got your ogres, you got your goblins, your Mercury Pythons, the works. Hold on, what was that last one? The goblin? They're like these little green guys, they're kinda... No, the one after that. Oh, the Mercury Python. Yeah, medieval monsters are kinda weird. The Mercury Python is an alchemical chimera that represents the element of Mercury. Go figure. But aside from the on-the-nose name, the symbolism can be seen through his winged boots, a design element taken from the Roman god also named Mercury. Then there's this beaked bullhead, which somehow represents this planet. Which, hey, look at that. Alright, so that's cool, but come on. We've talked about its sick kicks and 25% of its faces, so what does all this other junk mean? Yeah, well, about that, I have no idea. I mean, the sun is the sun, and this Toucan Sam-looking joker is the moon, but I don't really know what they're doing here, you know? Like, what's that got to do with Mercury? One of my sources claimed our Pythonic friend represents three things becoming one, like the heads are the ingredients and the body is the outcome. Which kinda makes sense, since the sun could be gold, the moon could be silver, and like I said before, the bull is Mercury. But the body is also Mercury, thanks to those jet plane Jordans, and I'm no economist, but I'd say that trading my gold, silver, and Mercury just to get more Mercury would be a waste of gold and silver. But I don't really know. Alchemical symbols are often pretty baroque, so if you're stupid like me, then might I suggest a simpler symbol, like the alchemic green lion. This ferocious seafoam kitty cat was often depicted eating the sun, and was used to represent powerful acids. Specifically, it represents aqua regia, an acid unique in its ability to dissolve gold. Confusingly though, it was also sometimes used to represent liquid sulfate, which was believed to purify other metals, essentially turning them into gold. And in this context, the whole devouring thing doesn't really make sense. Maybe it's actually vomiting the sun, who knows? But anyway, while these symbols were absolutely fascinating, it's not like anyone believed they were actual creatures you could go out and find. They were scientific symbols for various different materials, kinda like the periodic table, just with a lot more dragons. Which would make chemistry class a little more interesting, but that's beside the point. But one bizarre beast believed to actually exist is the Blemmie, a creature whose name has been spelled every way you could possibly imagine, which makes researching it a fun and not at all frustrating challenge. Regardless, the Blemmie were a tribe of headless men believed to roam the plains of northern Africa alongside a handful of other vaguely humanoid weirdos. They were spotted by countless Roman and medieval sources from several centuries, and they all describe them the exact same way. Which is kinda weird, since the Blemmie is an actual African tribe. One that I'm assuming kept their heads firmly attached to their shoulders, though it's hard to know for sure since the Blemmie tribe disbanded long before anyone decided to actually research them. But the end of the source material did nothing to stop the growth of this weirdo fanfiction. In fact, it empowered them. No longer was the Blemmie confined to the wilds of Ethiopia, and soon they became a universal symbol for the unknown world. They appeared on maps of North America, Asia, the little crack between the seats of your car, whatever. So you know those modern recreations of medieval maps with badass lines like "there be dragons here"? Well, a more accurate rendition would probably say something about a headless nudist instead. Anyway, I've got one more for you guys today, and this one actually does come in the form of a dragon. Kind of. Not really. Today we think of dragons as fire-breathing death lizards, but the fire aspect is a relatively new creation, with the first fire-breathing dragon described in Beowulf around 700 AD. For an earlier flame-spewing monster, one could look to the early descriptions of the Bonnacon. This bovine creature possessed a set of horns that were completely useless for self-defense. So instead they employed a different method, where they'd run from danger while expelling a stream of projectile dung at their enemies. Gross, but also kinda cool, since this dung would fly up to 3 acres away and explode into flames upon contact, kinda like a worse-smelling napalm. And like I said, this thing is ancient. Descriptions date back to Pliny the Elder, sometime in the 1st century, a full 600 years before Beowulf and the original fire-breathing dragon. And so, just as there are modern paintings of valiant knights shielding themselves against the flak of a terrifying dragon, so too are there older paintings of warriors doing the same against fire-farting cows. Isn't history beautiful? Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. But before we discuss this week's Florshe finders, I'd like to let you know that I'll be hosting another Designing Aliens livestream tomorrow afternoon at 1 PM Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there. Now let's talk Florshes. Of course, Oh My Dearest Boy and Baby Shippy found their fill alongside Ongi Warner and Timestorm, who rectified his frankly unforgivable act from the previous video of not leaving any witty one-liners. Glad to see those back in play. I also need to mention Nate the Blurby, since he has been miscredited twice now. Whoops, my bad. But none of this is to overshadow my personal favorite, a simple man by the name of Also, this will be the last Florshe finding video of the year, so I decided to make a little leaderboard to finally crown the Florshe finding champion of 2023. I did this by going through the old videos and awarding a point for every episode a person was mentioned, plus an additional point for every Florshe they found. In the end, with 34 points, 404 was this year's champion. Congratulations. I also got to give one last thank you to MTL and Alfred Gore, my first and currently only patrons. Okay, bye for real this time.